Darami, I say, whenever I leave the house, and on whatever thing my eyes fall on, Sabr. Allah Ta'ala says, Wallahu yuhibbu as-sabirin. Allah Ta'ala is lief with Adifina.
School governing body of South Coast Madrasa.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the studios of ITV Networks. Today, subhanAllah, we have with us in studio Dr. Muhammad Abul Majd. Dr. Muhammad Abul Majd has a background in power and electrical engineering. He's a lecturer of power and electrical engineering at Cairo University. That's what he does some of his time. Most of Dr. Muhammad Abul Majd's time is spent with Islamic Relief worldwide. Dr. Muhammad Abul Majd also serves as the chairperson of the Board of Trustees of Islamic Relief South Africa, as well as serves on the Board of Trustees of Islamic Relief worldwide, based in Birmingham. Welcome to the studios of ITV Networks, Dr. Muhammad Abul Majd.
Thanks for having me.
Jazakumullah khairan. Dr. Muhammad, Islamic Relief Worldwide is a name that's become synonymous with many of the viewers and many people in the world in terms of two things. Firstly, relief, and secondly, development. How long has Islamic Relief Worldwide been around? What is the scope of Islamic Relief's activities on a global scale?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. Islamic Relief is now 30 years in operation. Alhamdulillah, we are in 45 countries around the world, and we are the largest grassroots Muslim organization that's not dependent on governments. We are mainly have our own supporters and donor base are the Muslims from different parts of the world, especially in the West, in Europe, in USA and Canada, but also in different parts in Africa and Asia, and we have our like projects, relief, as you said, and development projects in about 40 countries in different parts of the world, but mainly in African countries and countries in Asia too.
Two things I'd like to ask. Doctor, you mentioned that the donor base is predominantly Muslim, but I'm sure it's not exclusively Muslim.
No, it's not.
Excellent. Yeah. And the second would be, I mentioned two of the hallmarks of Islamic Relief is relief as well as development. Most other NGOs, non-governmental organizations, generally are part of relief efforts, and the moment a particular crisis or crisis area is out of the media, you no longer hear about them and they no longer have a presence in that particular area. I know that it's very different with Islamic Relief.
Yeah, at Islamic Relief we have very specific values that we follow, like the values from the Quran and from the Sunnah, to have ihsan and ikhlas in our work. So excellency in our, so we would like to be a center of excellence of providing humanitarian efforts both in relief and development. So we do have a long-term involvement when we go into areas that has a need. Sometimes we go into areas that has need because of poverty without even being an area of disaster, whether it's a man-made or natural disaster. But we built our name historically also by going very quickly to very difficult areas to work in, whether it was through man-made disasters or natural disasters, and we claim, alhamdulillah, that we now have the plans and the resources to be in any area in the world in 48 hours. Wow. For example, in the tsunami which hit Indonesia and Sri Lanka and other countries, we were there the first in about 4 hours, because we had offices there providing development work in in Banda Aceh, in Indonesia, and in Sri Lanka too. So within 4 hours, we were there at the ground, helping people and supporting people. But as you said, when we go into an area, we usually go not only to help people during disaster. We have three kind of levels of intervention. One is that like during the disaster itself, so we prepare ourselves before the disasters happen. We have also storage facilities in Dubai that can mobilize resources and tents and medical supplies and so on. And then once we stabilize the needs of the people and make sure that they, their lives are safe and their basic needs of food and health is. Then we move into the rehabilitation phase, which to provide shelters, to provide, social support, psychological support, and some infrastructure. And then later on, we provide long-term development projects to help people in education, in health, in sustainable livelihood, so that they have resources to get out of poverty and maybe become supporters of Islamic relief, or at least volunteer to help other people in humanity.
SubhanAllah. So I've actually got it slightly incorrectly. It's not 2, but it's 3 levels. So yes. It's relief, rehabilitation, and then lastly, long-term sustainable development.
Yes.
Doctor, what intrigues me is that you have a background in engineering, a very unique discipline, a very focused, structured discipline. How did Dr. Muhammad Abul Majd get involved in relief, rehabilitation, and development?
Well, it's a long story, but I will try to summarize it. Alhamdulillah, I went to Canada. I was raised in Egypt, and after finishing university, I went to Canada to study engineering again, to do my master and PhD, and worked there for some time. But it opened my eyes that the poor people of the world need a lot of capacity building, empowering them. So I started in the technical side, with technical training in different parts. But then I realized that also it's not only the technical, training or capacity building is needed. There is a lot of issues related to managing of resources and empowering the people. So I studied a little bit and then also practiced working in different parts of the world, especially in the developing world. And later on, I started volunteering with Islamic Relief as a consultant. So I did work with the Board of Trustees in Birmingham to help them develop, systems and procedures for several years. And then, subhanAllah, I was in 2001 living in Canada, and September 11 happens, and they were in much need for a CEO in USA, in Islamic Relief USA, because of the situation after September 11. So I went there for 3.5 years, and then I quit working with them full time, and now I am becoming a Board of Trustee member.
Wow, subhanAllah. Well, viewers, amazing work by amazing personalities. Stay tuned, we're going for a quick break. We'll be back shortly.
وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, we have in studio with us Dr. Muhammad Abul Majd from Islamic Relief Worldwide. He chairs the Board of Trustees of Islamic Relief South Africa, as well as serves on the Board of Trustees of Islamic Relief Worldwide, based in Birmingham. Dr. Muhammad Abul Majd, before the break, we looked at the global footprint of Islamic Relief Worldwide, working in 45 countries, and your involvement in Islamic Relief Worldwide, well, Islamic Relief Worldwide having been in existence for now just over 30 years, you being involved for 10, 12, maybe 15 years. How is it that you manage to manage, and yes, I'm saying that correctly, how is it that you manage to manage an organization, an NGO, which means it's not an organization for gain, that has a global footprint, a presence in 45 countries, in some of the most difficult and trying circumstances and environments in the world?
Well, we have a very good team in different countries, and that's what we are relying on. They are professional people, but also they have values to help human beings in need. And we have also, alhamdulillah, systems to help also make sure that we have transparent operation and accountability to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, and then to our supporters and beneficiaries, and to even the authorities in different countries, to be able to respond to the bylaws of the country and to whatever needs they have. Our board of trustees in different worldwide and then in different countries oversees the operation on a voluntarily basis, provide support, provide leadership and direction to the teams there. But we have, alhamdulillah, very capable individuals in different countries, and we have also an ambitious training program to make sure that we develop the skills of our teams in different parts of the world.
So I see few things. Firstly, I see the engineering coming out, mention of systems, mention of efficiencies, alhamdulillah, and this is most probably where what you studied, and many of the people who serve on the board of trustees, their backgrounds fuse with the whole idea of relief, rehabilitation and development. You've mentioned extensive training programs, and earlier on when we were chatting, I mentioned that some South African brothers and sisters have been fortunate to be part of these training programs, even though they were not members or staff or employees of Islamic Relief Worldwide, which means that the training and development goes beyond just the scope of the staff and those who are full-time with Islamic Relief, which is really phenomenal. Dr. Muhammad Abul Majd, naturally with 45 countries under the umbrella of Islamic Relief Worldwide in terms of your offices and your operations, there must be lots of planning that goes into making sure that you are a market leader, we could say, in terms of dispensing of relief with a turnaround time to market of 48 hours, as you said. What are some of the strategic thrusts for Islamic Relief Worldwide over the next 3 years or 5 years?
Well, let me first start with your point that yes, we provide this capacity building and the training to our staff, our volunteer base, which are also very proud of, that I really would like to thank and praise them. They provide a lot of support and not only to our programs, but in their communities. And we hope that they will be the future leaders of their communities, but also to the beneficiaries, because also, again, our strategic vision is to empower the people, the community, so that they can be able to help themselves and self-sustain. But coming back to the main areas of our strategy is in this relief work, we would like to, and we are working hard to become not only us, but even the communities that may suffer natural emergencies, to be prepared, well prepared up front, be able to have some resources in stock, but also be prepared to coordinate and know from the different stakeholders, whether government or non-profit organization like ours, what is the roles and the responsibility of each during a disaster. And again, going down to even individuals, whether they are relief workers or even volunteers, what is their role will be, whether to help the displaced people, or distribute food, or maybe medical interventions, or putting shelters together and so on. So we have this disaster preparedness programs that we try to train people on and train communities, and also then we would, as I said, having this goal of being ready in any part of the world in 48 hours or less. But in the rehabilitation and development, we have our main goals is into sustainable development in general, integrated sustainable development from education, health, sustainable livelihood, empowering the communities so that they become self-sustained communities.
Dr. Muhammad Abul Majd, you mentioned earlier on that you have Dubai as a place from which you can reach most parts of the world. I'm sure the reasoning or the rationale behind that is because Dubai is a central hub in terms of mostly, air traffic, which means that it's easier to reach most areas from there. So we can see that, the systems that you have in place are really those that have a lot of thought has went into them, taking into account the dynamics and the constraints of different areas and dimensions of doing relief work, logistics, planning, stable countries, stable nationalities. You mentioned work with both NGOs as well as, governmental organizations. This is really, really phenomenal. What are some of the things that the world can look forward to in the next 3 years or 5 years from Islamic Relief?
Well, we build on our, experience and capacity and lessons learned, and we try to improve and, work with other stakeholders. But besides having, the hub in Dubai, we have also in each of our countries that there is also a smaller hub that then if disaster within the country, then our people and our resources within the country will be the first to go into this country or a neighboring country. Besides that, we have, as I said, our sustainable livelihood integrated programs that we are doing here in different parts of the world, but also here in South Africa and the region.
Well, as you can see, if you fail to plan, you've planned to fail. But undoubtedly with Islamic Relief, they've been planning, and subhanAllah, because of that, people throughout the world are benefiting. We're going for a quick ad break. We'll be back shortly.
صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما صلوا عليه.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, we've been speaking about Islamic Relief Worldwide. We have in studio with us Dr. Muhammad Abul Majd, who's the chairperson of the Board of Trustees of Islamic Relief South Africa, as well as someone who serves on the Board of Trustees of Islamic Relief Worldwide, based in Birmingham. We've learned a lot about Islamic Relief Worldwide today in the short time that we've spent together. But now, Dr. Muhammad Abul Majd, we want to focus on the areas where Islamic Relief Worldwide is currently working. I know it's 45 countries, it's a lot of work, but perhaps you could highlight for us those few areas that most people are aware of in terms of either conflict situations or where people are in dire straits, and some of the work that's been going on there for a while. Maybe you can even tell us about some of the areas that are out of the media spotlight, but where work is still carrying on.
Well, maybe we'll start with hotspots, and because the need is really very big and great. And Syria would be obviously one. The number of displaced and refugees outside of Syria now is over 1.5 million refugees in the neighboring countries. But within Syria, there is over 6 million displaced people also. And for 2 years now, unfortunately, this area has been really in a very bad situation. Islamic Relief has now operation inside Syria to help mainly with medical support and also other relief interventions. And we have big operation in Jordan with refugees on the border between Syria and Jordan. In Lebanon also we have a big operation. And even in Egypt, there is more than 100,000 refugees, Syrian refugees, and we have there also a project that's supported with the UNHCR, the UN agency for refugees. But other parts of the world, like in Somalia and the East Horn in Africa, there is again a huge need that has been going on for some time, and we have operation inside Somalia. We manage it from our office in Nairobi. So the whole eastern horn there is a need. Also the sub-Saharan Africa, Chad, Mali, Sudan, and South Sudan, Darfur in Sudan, and Niger. Again, a lot of needs, and our operations there is going on, and maybe the media is not focusing in these areas. There is droughts, there is shortage of food, water, and medical help. It's the poorest countries in the world in this area, and we have ongoing operation supporting. And by the way, Islamic Relief South Africa, with the help of South African government, have done an interesting project in Chad, providing food supplies and other interventions to the poorest people over there. Besides that, also in Yemen is a country that has a lot of issues with food security, and we have a big operation there. We work with World Food Program in providing, to children and to families food supplies and other, health and social services over there. So this is quickly. I visited for Darfur and seen our operations there, but also seen the needs. There have been refugees there for the last, subhanAllah, 8 or maybe 9 years. And their situation has improved, but very little over the years. There's a lot of needs there. I visited Pakistan, especially after the big earthquake, which happened a few years ago. Again, there is huge need in Pakistan. I visited Sri Lanka after the tsunami, and made sure that also, as I said, not only we have rehabilitation projects after the relief, but start long-term development projects.
Doctor, you mentioned United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and the Office for the UNHCR. You've also mentioned the United Nations in some of the other areas, Yemen, with the food security program. There's this interaction between the United Nations and the different programs they run in Islamic Relief worldwide. Naturally, when the United Nations looks at preferred service vendors, some of the deliverables for them are professionalism, efficiency, are all those kind of things, good governance, accountability, etc. And maybe if you could just highlight for us this interplay between the United Nations and how Islamic Relief Worldwide has positioned itself in a manner that they are seen as the preferred vendor by not just the United Nations, but also in terms of some of the other interactions with the Red Cross, with the Red Crescent, etc.
Well, I think we are very fortunate for two things. One is that, as you said, we have transparent and accountable systems and procedures that show the international community and the international organizations, like the different UN organizations, but also others like the DFID in UK, the SIDA in Canada and in Sweden, and the EU and ECHO in Europe. These are big organizations that are looking for NGOs to partner with to deliver services to the needy. And alhamdulillah, we have done quite a bit of work with them and continue to do work with these organizations, because we have the systems and procedures and the capacity and the skilled people. But also the most important thing is that we also have acceptability among the communities. Unfortunately, most of the disasters during the last 20 years or so, whether they are man-made or natural, have happened in Muslim countries. And because of our logo, our name, and also most of the people working for us are Muslims, and their heart is there, that the communities have accepted us through also our values to work with them. So in different parts of the world you find that it is difficult for some other NGOs, if even they have good systems, to do work in these very difficult areas. So this is one of our big selling point, to tell you the truth, in being able to serve those in need. But we also, by the way, worked in in countries that are non-Muslim, like in Haiti when it was hit, even in USA when they have disaster in like Katrina and so on. He did some work over there in China during the earthquake over there. We did some work. So it is, we try to help as much as we can the humanity without discrimination to race or religion. But in most cases, it is very poor areas of the Muslim world that we have done quite a bit of work.
Well, from some of my readings, I've also gleaned that one of the reasons why Islamic Relief is a preferred service vendor is because of the funds that are generally allocated to any particular project. The greater percentage of the funds when Islamic Relief is managing a project actually goes to the intended recipients, whereas sometimes with many other NGOs, that's not the case. So subhanAllah, this is also something that we learn and we benefit by virtue of our Islamic teachings and our Islamic ethos. Lastly, Doctor, I'd like you just very briefly to tell us about some of the projects that the viewership can look forward to here back home in South Africa.
Well, in South Africa, we have a very growing organization, very vibrant organization that's providing integrated development work in different poor areas here in South African townships. We would try to focus, besides integrated development work, on also education for the young and the youth, to take them out of poverty and into the workforce. We partner with other stakeholders and NGOs here in South Africa. We are looking forward also, we have an office in Malawi, and we are looking forward for South Africa, Islamic Relief South Africa, to be the regional hub for providing support to the different parts of the southern region of Africa.
Jazakumullah khairan for your time and for this interview. Well, viewers, I hope you've learned more about the inner workings of Islamic Relief worldwide and the opportunity for us as South Africans to plug in to this global NGO that's dispensing relief, rehabilitation and development to predominantly fellow brother and sister Muslims throughout the world, and not discriminating at the same time based on either religion or race or gender or ethnicity. So truly espousing the values of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's vicegerents on earth. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما. صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما. صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما. صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما حتى تنالوا جنة ونعيما.